Welcome back to Seasons, a devotional based on my book by the same title. And today we're going to talk about the rest of the story. And yes, you might recognize that tagline. It's by a guy named Paul Harvey, who had a radio show up to the late 1990s, maybe early 2000s. But his tagline was, "And now for the rest of the story." And everybody who knew who Paul Harvey was knew what to expect, the unexpected. Paul had a radio program that was broadcast all over North America that was about 5 to 7 minutes long. The first 3/4 of his broadcast, he would give the account of an actual true story of some type. And then there would be a commercial break. And then he would begin again with his catchphrase, "And now for the rest of the story." And the rest of the story usually was going places that you never thought that you would be going to when you heard the first part of the story. Well, that's how it is with us when we walk with the Lord and when we step out in obedience to the things He's asked us to do. I was talking about that very thing with a friend many years ago when we were talking about the results that we had that weren't spectacular after a challenge our pastor had given us a few Sundays prior to our discussion. You see, he challenged us to reach out with God's love in our immediate neighborhood. But we both accepted the challenge, and we were wise enough to know that we would be challenged and that God would take us at our word. Sure enough, within a week of renewing my commitment to be a light in my neighborhood, I experienced a disconcerting encounter with a new neighbor in my apartment building one day when I was in the hallway. And I realized that there was something off, and I realized that there were some mental health issues that actually escalated to a place where she had to be taken away from the building. My friend's experience was even more harrowing than mine. But we both knew that we were still in the midst of our stories. We couldn't gauge our success by our circumstances, and we knew the dangers of comparing where we were in our story with the stories that were being played out in the lives of our brothers and sisters in Christ. We had to put our trust in the one who called us, and we had to keep our eyes fixed on Him, our divine author. Because He is the author of our lives, His plans and purposes will come to fruition. Hebrews 12, verse 2, Isaiah 55, verse 11. He has the advantage of a drone view. Think of a supernatural drone view where God is high up above our circumstances, and He can see our lives from the beginning to the end. And while we think we're knee deep in mire and muck and confusion and we feel like we're going around in circles, He actually has the power to see the journey that we're going on. He knows the end of our story. Are you struggling to remain obedient and faithful in your calling? Have you recently made a commitment to be obedient to Him in a particular area of your life, only to find that area suddenly turned completely upside down? Take God at His word. The vast majority of the promises that God gave His people in the Old Testament were corporate, meant for the entire nation or for the legacy that an individual might leave behind, like Abraham. There could be promises that God has spoken into your life, but if you're holding on to them for some sort of personal gain, you could be missing out on the rest of the story. Look back at those promises that you feel God has planted there and ask Him if you're missing a huge chunk of that promise because you're not looking at how His promises spoken over you need to come to fruition so you can bless all those around you.